Moria sat in her dimly lit cottage, squinting at the pages of her large-print spell book. She had been working tirelessly on tightening up her magic, practicing simple spells from the book, but something still wasn't right. The light in her cottage was too faint, making it difficult to see, even with the larger print. "What's the point of big letters if I can't see them?" Moria muttered to herself, glaring at the flickering candle beside her. The wax was nearly spent, and the flame was weak. "I need new candles. Maybe brighter flames will help me focus." With that in mind, Moria grabbed her cloak and headed out to gather supplies. New candles would be a small improvement, but perhaps new light would be the key to unlocking more of her magic. Meanwhile, over at Clever's farm, preparations for the annual fall festival were well underway. Clever had planned all the usual events: the pumpkin carving contest, pumpkin decorating contest, and the costume contest, but this year he was adding something new. There would be a pumpkin pie eating and baking contest, something to spice up the festival and make it even more inviting. Villagers from far and wide were already buzzing with excitement. Clever and his family, Medusa, Daleth, Little Red, and even a very small mouse, were busy finalizing the details. Their farm was nearly ready to host what was sure to be the biggest festival yet. Medusa, with her newfound positive attitude, was even getting into the spirit of things. She had been helping Clever more than usual, embracing her role in the festival preparations. As Moria wandered through the village market, looking for candles, she spotted Medusa at one of the stalls, gathering supplies for the festival. Moria's eyes narrowed. This was an opportunity. Medusa had always been a grumpy, negative force, and Moria figured she might still harbor some resentment toward Clever. If she could plant a seed of jealousy in Medusa's mind, maybe it would grow into something that would cause trouble for Clever and the festival. Moria approached Medusa with a casual smile. "Well, if it isn't Medusa," she said. "Getting ready for the big festival, are we?" Medusa, in her usual no-nonsense tone, nodded. "That's right. We've got a lot to prepare for." Moria leaned in, her voice taking on a more conspiratorial tone. "Tell me, doesn't it ever bother you? All this attention Clever gives to his pumpkins, these contests. It must get lonely sometimes, having him focus more on those pumpkins than on you." She paused, hoping her words would plant the seed of doubt. But to Moria's surprise, Medusa didn't take the bait. She looked Moria in the eye and smiled a rare, genuine smile. "No, it doesn't bother me at all." Moria blinked, caught off guard. "Really? And why is that?" Medusa shrugged. "Because I'm not like you." She grinned wider, her eyes gleaming with confidence. "Moo, get out of my way," she added with a playful laugh, brushing past Moria as she continued shopping for festival supplies. Moria stood there, stunned and frustrated. Her plan had failed. Medusa had embraced her new attitude fully, and no amount of meddling was going to change that. Frustrated but determined, Moria finished her errands and returned home with a fresh batch of candles. She set them around her cottage, lighting each one carefully. As the new flames flickered to life, her cottage filled with a new warm, bright glow. She sat back down at her table, opening her spell book once again. With the new light illuminating the pages, she realized that she could see the text much more clearly. For the first time in days, she felt like she could finally focus on her spells. "This will help," Moria muttered to herself, nodding in satisfaction. "Now, I'll be able to see the details." But as Moria worked through her spell book, the reality of her situation slowly set in. The new candles, though helpful, weren't enough to change the fact that her magic was still weak. The simple spells she practiced were nothing compared to the grand, powerful magic she once wielded. No matter how much light she added, the spells were still basic, still lacking the potency she craved. Outside her cottage, the sounds of excitement and celebration drifted through the air from Clever's farm. The villagers were gathering for the fall festival, eager to join in the fun of the pumpkin contests, the pie eating, and the new traditions being born. Moria, sitting alone in her brightly lit cottage, couldn't help but feel the weight of her isolation. The festival was thriving, Clever's family was happy, and even Medusa had shrugged off her negativity. Meanwhile, Moria was still chasing after the magic she had lost long ago. I should be out there, Moria whispered to herself, her fingers gripping the edge of the table. I should be the one they look to for power and wonder. But the reality was clear. As long as Moria remained focused on the small improvements, the candles, the spell book, she would never reclaim the grand magic she once had. The villagers had moved on, and so had Clever. The fall festival was a new tradition, and Moria had no part in it, and deep down inside, it was bothering her. As the night wore on and the festival continued without her, Moria sat in her cottage, surrounded by the light of her new candles, but still very much in the dark, waiting for the new season, because sometimes the autumn winds would bring change, and change is needed. The thought alone was festering in her that she had no involvement in the fall festival, and she failed to plant the seeds of doubt in Mudusa's mind. But maybe next season new ideas and pumpkins would grow.